Okay, good morning. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Medical Classes by Dr. Srinidhi Kumar Acharya. Please subscribe to my channel and also please give your valuable comments. As we know, we are discussing about the Phakka Roga. Okay, so in the last two or three or four classes, we have discussed in detail about what exactly is Phakka Roga and exactly what particular clinical scenario should be taken as Phakka and what you mean by the different types of the Phakka, which has to be taken as different causes of Phakka, and what is exactly the cause for Phakka Roga by means of Kshira, by means of Garbha, and by means of Vyadi, and how it can be compared to the present scenario like failure to thrive like condition, and what is the total pathogenesis, how the symptoms will proceed and the manifestations will be there, and how the disease is slowly progressive from simple loss of muscle or loss of fat from the body to a death-like condition. That has been very well explained in Ayurveda and we have seen in the last class. So today, we will have a discussion on treatment of Phakka Roga. Now, Kashyapa Samhita in Chikitsasana, he explains the Phakka Roga. But unfortunately, all the shlokas are not available, and some of the available shlokas are also missing. And that has been created a lot of confusion in the treatment of Phakka Roga. But however, what is exactly Phakka and what is the clinical condition? So that point is clear by now. Now we shall see the treatment of Phakka Roga, and presently, by applying the principles which is given in the Ayurveda, what are all the patients that we can safely treat, and that should be also understood. That we'll see in the next slides. Now, when you talk about treatment of Phakka Roga, the foremost important thing is identification of the cause, because all the disorders, the first line of treatment is always Nidana Parivarjana. So here also you have to look into the Nidana. You have to look into the Nidana. See, Phakka may be because of feeding causes. Phakka may be because of some social causes. Phakka may be because of some antenatal or postnatal causes. Phakka may be because of some disorders, or Phakka may be disorders or complications of some of the disorders. Okay, so first and foremost thing is identification of the cause and try to correct that particular cause if there is an error. For example, if there is a feeding error, try to correct the feeding problem. Okay, and if there is a nutritional error, then correct the nutritional problem. If there is some social problems, give the proper love and care to the child. So this identification of the cause is very important. If some disease is the cause, try to treat that particular disease. And if there is some complication of the disease is happening, then also try to treat the disease and along with the complication. So this is the primarily in all Ayurveda disorders, this is the basic thing. Identification of the cause. Sometimes cause may be treatable, sometimes cause may not be treatable. For example, inborn errors of metabolism. Okay, so or some of the genetic problems or chromosomal problems, some of the structural problems, extensive structural problems. So all the causes we are not in a position to treat it. So in such condition, give the symptomatic treatment so that life expectancy of the child will be improved. Anyway, so consideration of the cause of the disease is very important, first and foremost thing. So that has been mentioned as a Nidana Parivartana. Then comes to Deepana Pachana Chikitsa. So this is also mentioned in the classics. Okay, so if you look into the shlokas, so there is also mentioning of Deepana Pachana Chikitsa. The shloka we will see later. Second one is Deepana Pachana Chikitsa. So in the classics, actually things are haphazardly given, not given in an order. So I have tried to put it in an order so that it is easy for the study. So then comes the Brahmana treatment. So that is nothing but nutritional supplement or nutritional treatment. Okay, you are trying to increase the body muscle fat or muscle mass, because that itself is get lost in Phakka Roga. So next is Brahmana treatment. In between there is another treatment which is explained by Kashyapa. So that is Ashwasana Chikitsa. ashwasan chikitsa. That is, you have to counsel the patient, and also you have to encourage the patient, and you have to bring a positive attitude in the patient, so that he can come out of this problem anyhow. Okay, so encouraging is very important. Now suppose a child is in FTT or Phakka because of some emotional components or a lack of concern, love, sympathy, etc., or because of some of the social issues. Now encouraging the patient is very important. Or the patient is completely debilitated with the manifestation of more psychological symptoms along with the physical symptoms. Now counseling and ashwasana is very important. Okay, mana eva manushyanam karano bandha mokshayo. So you have to correct the manas. Once the manas is corrected, then everything will be corrected. And that is a roadway to the correction. Without correcting the mind, you cannot do anything. Therefore, mana eva manushyanam karano bandha mokshayo. Mana itself is the karana for the bandha and as well as moksha, as told in Gita. Anyway, so next another line of treatment which is explained is a shodhana line of treatment. Shodhana line of treatment. So you have to go for purificatory treatment. Now, which patient has to be given with the shodhana? Which patient should not be given with the shodhana? So these are some of the applied aspects of Phakka Roga chikitsa. Okay. Now, if the strength of the child is good, and if it is diagnosed at the earlier, and if you find that there is no much complications, and if you find that the child is able to tolerate, so then some mild shodhana treatment can be given. It is not contraindicated. Okay. Then Kashyapa explains, if you are giving the shodhana treatment, then there should be abhyanga, there should be svedana, there should be snehapana, and followed by the shodhana treatment, isn't it? So he mentioned some of the important gritas for the snehapana purpose. Especially he mentions the gritas like kalyanaka grita, shadphala grita, and amrita grita, etc. Of course, there is also brahmi grita, but there is a controversy. I will explain it later. Kalyanaka grita, shadphala grita, and amrita grita. So these are mentioned. And after snehapana, if you want to go for virechana karma, so then again Kashyapa is very clear. Trivritta kshira should be used. For this purpose, Trivritta kshira virechana should be done. Trivritta is sukha virechaka. So probably with this intention, he has selected Trivritta kshira because it is quite conducive to the children. And this will be followed by samsarjana karma. If you look into the shlokas, it's very clear. This will be followed by the samsarjana karma. So this is how we can list out the treatment principles explained by Kashyapa in the treatment of Phakka Roga when we consider the different shlokas. If you look into the text, the shlokas are broken in between because it's not available. So it may not convey the proper meaning. But when you put in the treatment principles in order, so that will be very, very clear. Okay, now we come to some of the basic issues. These are the treatment principle. If you look into the Nidana Parivarjana, that is over, then Deepana Pachana Chikitsa. Now, of course, Deepana Pachana Chikitsa is important because we are also talking about the Shodhana treatment here. So, otherwise also, in case of a child with a failure to thrive, where the body fat is depleted, okay, and we will go for Deepana Pachana Chikitsa because the digestive capacity and carbonative capacity has to be increased. Then only we can give some of the nutritional supplement. Now we know that this is a condition with a severe cachexia. Thinking that there is a severe cachexia, we cannot go for a rapid correction of the caloric deficit. Okay, now we know that this child is really deprived of the nutrients, micronutrients, etc. And you cannot go for the rapid correction. Rapid correction may lead to so many problems. So this we also know when you are treating the SAM, severe acute malnutrition. Okay, so if you try to correct the nutritional problems, nutrition deficit suddenly, then are so many problems occurring like refeeding edema, nutritional edema, or refeeding syndrome, etc. So rapid correction may be very, very dangerous. Therefore, whenever there is a nutritional problem, the rule is don't be hurry, go slowly. Why? Because all the body physiology has been shut down now. All the apparatus of this digestive system and metabolic system, cellular metabolism, has been depleted because there is no availability of the nutrition. If you suddenly give the nutrition, now our digestive and metabolic system should be ready to receive it. So we have to go gradually rather than hurry. Okay, this is what contemporary science says that. Otherwise, there will be nutritional edema, refeeding edema, or refeeding syndrome, like things will happen. We will not discuss that. So that is explained in SAM, severe acute malnutrition. They are quite dangerous. So what Ayurveda says very clearly is first correct the Agni of the child. We have to correct the Agni of the child. Agni of the child has to be corrected. Agni has to be corrected, and then you can go for the correction. So now, therefore, Ayurveda very clearly says Deepanapachana Sikasha should be given. If the Agni is get affected, then try to correct the Agni and first stabilize the digestive fire, gastric fire, and then only you go for the treatment by supplementation, etc. So this is about the Deepanapachana Chikitsa. So once Agni is maintained, then the things are very clear. Now you have to go for nutritional treatment. Yes, now you have to provide the nutrition. Now, whatever may be the cause, okay, the Phakka stage, failure to thrive stage means there is the child's height is not gaining, weight is not gaining, all the parameters of the growth are falling. Okay, so immune system is now depressed, everything is there. So nutrition is very important. Ahara sambhava vastu rogastu ahara sambhavat. And ahara is considered as the bahya prana. So whatever ahara you give from the outside, that itself is act as anta prana. That means going to nourishes the anta prana. Sushruta very clearly says ahara is considered as bahya prana. When you take that particular ahara in a proper way, that itself will go into nourish as the anta prana. That is the inner soul. So therefore, giving ahara is very important. Now, which type of ahara you want to give? Because we know that there is a depletion of the tissue. So we have to go for Rasayana Chikitsa, no doubt. Brahmana Chikitsa, Jivaniya, Brahmana and Rasayana and Balya drugs has been mentioned by Kashyapa in this context. Okay. Now, nutritional supplement, when you talk about nutritional treatment, there is some difference between the present existing contemporary science and also Ayurveda principles. See, usually nutrition and other things are calculated, the daily requirement, okay, daily allowances, this is. So that is explained in terms of calorie need, okay. So they explain the calories, this much of calorie has to be given per body weight. Sometimes they calculate the calorie by means of surface area method also. Otherwise, they have fixed up to 10 kgs, we should at least require 100 kilocalories. So by the end of that, if the child is having 10 kgs, then the caloric requirement is about 1000 kilocalories per kg. So like this, 1000 kilocalories. And afterwards, every 50 calories should be added up to 20 kgs. And after 20 kgs, 20 kilocalories should be added. Like this, they have got their own formula. And they have got daily recommendation, daily requirement for the microminerals, etc. Such a type of supplementation of the food based on the caloric requirement has been not mentioned in Ayurveda. Okay, caloric requirement is not mentioned anywhere in Ayurveda. What Ayurveda says is you consider the requirement of the food according to the Agni of the patient, Agni of the child, digestive fire. Now that is quite obvious that basal metabolic rate, when I say Agni, it suggests towards a basal metabolic rate. The introduction of the food should be depends on the basal metabolic rate of the child. Because basal metabolic rate of each and every person will going to differ. It cannot be a uniform. If the basal metabolic rate is uniform all, then you can follow the particular calorie method. Okay, when the basal metabolic rate itself is low, so why you are giving extra calories or less calories? Sometimes it may be less calories and sometimes it may be more calories requirement. So to avoid all these hurdles, what Ayurveda says is you consider individual Agni of the patient and accordingly you give the food or medicine, whatever, because basal metabolic rate or Agni will go into differ from person to person, Prakriti to Prakriti, and we have got many methods of assessment of the Agni. Okay, in the Agni we have got Mandagni, Vishamagni, Samagni and Vishamagni, Samagni, etc. are there. Tikshnagni is also there, and we have got our own symptomatology parameters for the assessment of it. So assessment of the Agni and assessment of the koshta. So these two are important things upon which Ayurveda always explains of the food supplementation. Okay, so this is how we differ. Our principles differ from the present system of medicine, modern system of medicine. Another is science. Modern science always talks about the balanced food or complete food. Yes, that is need of the hour. You have to provide the complete food. Food should not be only rich in carbohydrate. It should be contain the required amount of the protein, carbohydrate, minerals, water, minerals and vitamins. Everything should be there. But if you see in Ayurveda, so there is no separate calculation of these proteins, etc., protein, minerals, etc. To avoid all the confusion, what Ayurveda always suggests is you have to go for Shadrasa Yukta Ahar. Once you consume a food which contains all the 6 rasas, then your food becomes complete. Therefore, they say Shadrasa Bhojanam Sukha Karanam. Ekarasabhyasam, Sarvarasabhyasam Sukha Karanam, Ekarasabhyasam Vyadhi Karanam. So, if you are taking only one type of the food, like protein only or carbohydrate only, so then it is Vyadhikara. It leads to the disorders. But if you are consuming all the rasas, then it leads to Sukha Karanam. This is. So what is the logic behind this? Again, it's very simple. We know that every rasa contains 2 important Mahabhutas. If I say Madhura rasa is a Prithvi and Jala Mahabhuta. Then comes the Amla rasa. So Amla rasa contains Amla and Lavan, these Lavan rasas. So Amla rasa contains again the 2 other Mahabhutas. Akasha Mahabhuta contains, Kashaya rasa contains Akasha and Vayu Mahabhuta. So like this, when you take all the 6 rasas, your food becomes naturally a complete food because it contains all the 5 Mahabhutas in the required amount. Okay, so it naturally becomes complete. So because we know that all the food is Ahara Panchabhutika, and if you are including all the Pancha Mahabhutas in your diet, in the form of different rasas, because we believe that each rasa is made up of 2 important Mahabhutas. So you included all the rasas, that means it included all the Mahabhutas also. Okay, so this is one point. So the food becomes naturally a complete food or balanced food by taking Sarvarasabhyasa. So that is always encouraged in Ayurveda, number 1. Number 2 is there is a concept of Bhutagni. Okay, so we have got 3 types of Agni: Dhatu Agni, Jatra Agni and Bhutagni. So Bhutagni is actually the Agni, inherent Agni which is present in each and every material. Now if I say a fruit, the fruit will be going to be ripened by its own, and after completely over ripen it undergo rotating. Okay, so how this is happening? Actually there is an inherent Agni is present in each and every molecule, energy. Okay, each and every molecule of this particular earth has got its own energy, and that particular energy or Agni or heat, that is called as Bhutagni. So when you take this natural food, there is also Bhutagni, so that also helps to digest and metabolize each and every particle of the food. So therefore these 2 concepts makes the consumption of the food and different from the present medical science. The reason is, so what contemporary medical science believes is you go for the caloric calculation, you go for daily recommendations, and such type of recommendation is not mentioned in Ayurveda. Reason is Agni is different from person to person, and we always believe in taking 6 rasas, and thus we make the food complete, not by taking individual components. And these are the 2 different opinions. Of course, Ayurveda is the oldest science, and that has been followed since centuries together. The present recommendation of taking this recommended food and all, this is of recent origin. Maybe it may be subjected to change in future years, depending upon these limitations or some of the problems faced in the clinical practice. Anyway, so nutritional treatment is very important. Rasayana treatment should be given to a patient of Phakka Roga. Okay. So now, very important is when you give the treatment also, you have to go for more Sattvika food, because Rajasika and Tamasika food should not be given, because we have got a psychological involvement also in Phakka Roga. So therefore, if you give the satvika food, that's good. So prefer such foods which is easily digestible, lagu in nature and easily digestible, and impart the sattvic nature to the child. So rasayana type of food should be included in the diet. Okay. So again, diet should be started very slowly, not in a hurry. Next comes the ashwasana treatment. It's a very important counseling. So counseling of the parents and counseling of the child, both is very important. So because this is a disease which is a chronic disease, whenever there is a disease which is becoming chronic, it is quite natural that the psychological status of the patient will come down. Okay, so that too, if you have seen the Phakka Roga in the last stages, he is Durgandhi, Malina, Krodhi, he is irritable. Okay, and he is not able to walk, not able to sit, so that creates the frustration. So psychological problems are quite often and quite obvious. So physician has to address this problem also. So therefore, Kashyapa mentions ashwasana chikitsa should be done. Counseling of the patient should be done. Okay, in the shloka there is in between this word comes ashwasana. Now come to this part, the shodhana line of treatment. Shodhana line of treatment. This is quite controversial because if you look into the last stages of Phakka, where the patient is completely get debilitated, and introduction of the shodhana treatment is quite impossible, and it is also not indicated. Okay, so we have got madhyama bala rogi, rasva bala rogi, and uttama bala rogi. So like that we have got the classification is there for the shodhana. So shodhana is indicated either in madhyama bala or uttama bala, not in the alpa bala. So this being the case, so Kashyapa explained the treatment of this particular Phakka Roga in detail in terms of shodhana treatment. So he says shodhana can be given, but it is not clearly mentioned that where you have to give the shodhana, where you should not give the shodhana. Now this left to yukti of the patient, yukti of the physician. That means if a Phakka Rogi is coming to you in the early part, that means the growth failure is there, but it is not so. That means a SAM-like condition is not there, or simply it is the beginning part of this particular problem. So then you can go for the shodhana treatment. Or if you think one particular disorder is a cause of this particular Phakka situation, then you can go for the shodhana treatment related to that particular disease. For example, Raktapisda is the cause of the disease, Raktapisda is the cause of Phakka, or Gulma is the cause of Phakka, or Prameha is cause of the Phakka. Then because Juradhyoho Nija Agantu Juradhyihi Vyadaya, Jara Adi Vyadis, any Vyadis can. Shwasa is the cause of the Phakka. Okay? Or some Grihani is the cause of the Phakka. Now, shodhana treatment related to that particular disease can be employed. And if you are going for shodhana of that particular disease, then so Kashyapa suggested Kalyanaka, Shadfala and Amritagrita as the Snehapana. Gritas for the Snehapana. And at the end, Virechana can be given by Kshira, Trivrit Kshira. Now again, if you see the basics of Panchakarma, again Kashyapa and other authors very clearly says, as far as possible, Virechana should not be given in case of children. You can go for Nasya, you can go for Basti. Wherever there is a Nasya is needed, you go for the Pratimarsha Nasya. Wherever the Vamana is required, you go for this Basti. Wherever Nasya is required, you go for Pratimarsha Nasya. And in between, the Virechana is not implicated unless and until it is an emergency. Atyayikana. If only it is an emergency situation and situation demand Virechana, try to replace it by means of Basti. If it is not possible, it's the only way out, then only you go for Virechana. Otherwise, in the routine treatment, you don't go for Virechana. But in Phakka Roga, he is only explaining about Virechana, that too by Trivrit Kshira. So he mentioned Trivrit Kshira means Sukha Virechana. So therefore, definitely he is talking about mild Virechana, not the Tivra Virechanas. Of course, we know that when we decide the dose of the medicine, dose of the Snehapana, etc., we consider the Agnibala of the patient, and accordingly we will fix the dose also in Panchakarma. And accordingly we use the drug for Virechana also. So this is left to the yukti of the physician, that how much he has to give the Virechana, whether the proper Virechana has to be given, mild Virechana has to be given, or some Virechana drugs should be given. So this has to be decided by the physician. And after this, he mentioned about the Samsarjana Karma. After this, he mentioned the Samsarjana Karma, so which has to be followed after each and every Shodhana Karma. So this is about the base. And with the same, we will go for one more important slide where he explains about the treatment of Phakka Roga. He says that a Phakka Roga which is dominant with Vataja symptoms. Okay, if the Phakka Roga is dominant with the Vataja symptoms, so then he explains some important yogas. Of course, that particular slide is missing. I will explain you. Bastaya snehapanani svedasya udvartanani cha. Okay, so this is the last shloka in that particular. Is the last shloka in that particular shloka, which is means last line of the shloka, which is explained in that particular shloka, big shloka, which is broken in between. So where he says that a Phakka condition which is dominant with Vata, you can go for Bastaya. Even the Basti is mentioned. Snehapanani, Svedasya Udvartanani cha. Svedasya Udvartanani cha. Okay. So Phakka Rogina Mapyante, like that shloka goes. So that means Shodhana, he is not only mentioned Virechana, in the context of the Shodhana, he is also mentioned the Basti also. Bastaya Snehapanani, Svedasya Udvartanani cha. So Snehana, Svedana, then Udvartana, and then Basti, then Virechana. So everything has been mentioned. Okay, especially this Bastaya Snehapanani Svedasya Udvartana, this is mentioned for a Phakka Roga condition where the emaciation is more. Okay, so Vata dominant Phakka Roga, he mentioned that particular treatment. So I hope this is clear. Now we go to the other part of the Phakka Roga. Now here he mentioned so many things which need some clarification. Now see, Kashyap Samhita is actually completed by many authors. Unfortunately, that has been missed many times in the history, and it is not at all in the mainstream of treatment at all. Fortunately, some of the authors rewrote it and again brought back into the mainstream. So this being the case, if you see the Vruddha Jivaka, then comes the Anahata Yaksha, then comes the Vaksya, then so many other, we don't know, who are all contributed to this. So anyhow, they completed this Kashyap Samhita and presented before us. So there is every chance of error. Many errors will be there because it has been contributed by many people who are living in the different centuries. First, Vruddha Jivaka wrote the book. He was living somewhere in the 3rd or 4th century, and then comes Vaksya, who is in the 5th century. Okay, we don't know exactly the time period of Anahata Yaksha. So like this, the many people contributed, and there is every chance that they have included their thoughts in that books. So many times we find so many controversial aspects when we look into the Kashyap Samhita. And Kashyap Samhita is one book where social things are mentioned more. If you find this caste system, caste-wise system, and some of the social problems has been addressed very well by Kashyapa. Okay, so he always talk about Raja Vaidya, he always talk about Raja Taila, he always talks about VIP people and Raja Putriya Adhyaya, Raja Putriya Siddhya Adhyaya, like that. So that particular differentiation is there. Poor people and middle people. Even in the Sweda Adhyaya, he explains when you give the treatment, you should find out, you should always look into the socio-economical status of the children, because the patients are classified into Daridra, Madhyama, and Uttama, like that. Okay. Similarly, the disease which is Asadhya may be Sadhya in rich people, and a Sadhya disease also become Asadhya in poor people because they don't have Dana, Dakshina, and diet, etc. So they have got the scarcity of the food, they have got scarcity of the money, and that may lead to this problem. So such social and caste, different types of caste, everything is explained very detailed in Kashyapa. So this is what I told. This may be because of a contribution of many authors in Kashyap Samhita. from time to time. Anyway, one of such problems also occur in Phakka Roga, where he gives a controversial looking statement. So what he says is that Brahmi Grita should not be given in Shudras. Now exactly what do you mean by Shudra? Shudra may be working class people. Okay, I think so. Working class people, like employers like us, or because Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, this is not as we think. It is not a caste system. It is a system of Varna. It is a psychological classification. Okay, so that we'll discuss in another class. It's not as we thought. Anyway, that has been misused and used for and it has been misinterpreted by so many people for their own benefits. That's a different issue. Leave it. So contraindication of Brahmi Grita and Shudra is mentioned in Kashaf Samhita. Now we need a clarification for this. And further he says, any physician who is introducing Brahmi Grita to the Shudras will not get into moksha. Swargam na gacchati. So that means, in other words, he is also threatening a type of warning or threatening to the physician also. One is a Brahmi Grita, why it should not be given to the Shudra. When you are doing the treatment, it should be given for all, but why it should not be given to Shudra. And another is, if suppose by mistake physician administer it, the physician will not go into Swarga. That means he will be badly affected. But looking to all the things, I think that FTT like condition is a chronic condition, or Phakka is a chronic condition which needs a continuous treatment. And a lot of, I say, the money will be also spent on this. Okay, definitely they have to spend a lot of money. I think the idea giving behind this sentence is they are indirectly threatening the physician that you should not exploit the patient. So because the Shudra, the working class people, so they are not in a position to afford for the cost of the treatment for this particular Phakka Roga. So a physician should not exploit these poor people for different purposes. And if he is doing so he will not get into the moksha. This may be the idea, because physician should explain the prognosis of the disease in the beginning itself before starting the treatment, and it should not be a money minting business. And probably this may be the idea. Of giving this statement, which looks little controversial. Okay, but if you take Shudra as not the caste wise, and if you take Shudra as a working community, okay, who are depending on others, working community, people who are not independent, people who are dependent on others for their all cost and all and daily life, so they may not able to afford the treatment cost of this particular long-standing chronic disorders, and after spending that much of money also, it's not quite physician cannot ensure that, so he can revert back the condition if it is very chronic. So maybe this is an idea of giving a caution to the physician. It should be taken like this. This is what I mean to say. Okay, there are some opinions. Brahmi Grita is the one which is Medya Grita, and there was the idea that only Brahmin should be, and that means intelligent, others should not be intelligent. Actually, personally, I don't agree with this particular discussion or argument. Okay, because the meaning of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra itself is different. It's a psychological classification. Anyway, so this is one important thing that we have to discuss. Number 2 is Balya Chikitsa should be given. Yes, of course. Another important treatment is Balya Chikitsa should be given, because so when Kshina Mamsa Baladyuti is mentioned, there is a Kshina in the Mamsa and as well as Bala. So in order to increase the Bala, we have to go for different types of Balya Chikitsa. We have got the Balya, the Shatemani drugs are there, different Balya drugs are there. So that has to be given. This is one important treatment principle. Now, he mentioned Abhyanga with Rajatela. There is also mentioning of Abhyanga with Rajatela. Now, again, Rajatela is used for the Abhyanga purpose. It is not for internal intake or not for other purpose. For the Abhyanga, you have to go for the Rajatela. Now it is quite interesting that how this name came. Okay, So therefore he says ikshvakoho subaho sagarasya chaha nahushasya dilipasya bharatasya gayasya chaha etena levire putraha gatim ayur balam sukam rajnyam purvopadeshaschaha rajatailamiti sprutam. That means rajataila is that taila when it is applied for the abhyanga purpose for the patient. The different patients of Phakka Rogi who belongs to the different families, king families like Ikshvaku, Subahu, Rajaputras. Different Rajaputras are get benefited by this particular taila, and therefore probably this name Raja taila has been given. Okay, so Raja taila, because the Rajaputras of Ikshvaku, Subahu, Sagara, Nahushasya, Dilipasya, Bharatasya, Gayasya cha etena levire putraha gatirma ayur balam sukam. This Rajataila gives a gati, movement. That means they are not able to walk in Phakka Roga. So it provided the gati, movement, motor milestones developed. Ayur, increase the life expectancy or lifespan. And Balam, also increase the strength. So Sukam, it also gives the Sukha. So these are the benefit of Rajataila. Okay. Gatim, Ayur, Balam, Sukam. So therefore, as it is very much beneficial in Rajatailas previously, the name Rajataila was given. Okay. So this Rajataila, see, this is a general, this Rajataila can be applied for the Abhyanga purpose. So Abhyanga is, therefore one is very clear, Abhyanga is one of the mainstay of treatment in Phakka Roga. So which we have not mentioned in the first list. In the first list, Abhyanga is the mainstay of treatment. Deepana, Pachana, Abhyanga, then Rasayana Chikitsa, then Shodhana Chikitsa, Ashwasana Chikitsa. So Abhyanga is very important. Okay, so Abhyanga is also one of the mainstay of treatment. And now another important is preparation of the Rajataila. How to prepare the Rajataila? A big list is given and different drugs are mentioned. I am not going to mention, you can find it in the textbook. Okay, so by the Taila preparation method only that particular Taila is used, and so many drugs are there, Rasna, like many drugs are there, and that has to be used according to the Taila method, and that Taila is used for the Abhyanga. Okay, and benefits of Abhyanga and scientific analysis of benefits of Abhyanga is quite obvious. Okay, Abhyanga is best Vatahara, and this Phakka Roga is one condition where the Vata dominant, isn't it? So there is emaciation, cachexia, it's a Vata dominant Dhatukshaya condition. So a Vatahara Rajataila for by means of Vatahara method of treatment, that is Abhyanga, it's quite beneficial. Of course, Abhyanga helps to stimulate the sensory stimulation, and it helps to modulate the brain function, cognitive functions, etc. So that we will see later. One more line of treatment in case of Phakka Roga is a Tripada Chakra Prayoga. Tripada Chakra Prayoga. So this is considered as one of the physiotherapy method. Usually a child has to be given with Tripada Chakra, tricycle. Okay, a cycle, bicycle, we know, tricycle. 3 wheels should be there. So that child can hold it and practice the habit of walking. Okay, Shaner Shaner Grihitvam Gatim Abhyaset. This is mentioned in case of Tripada Chakra Prayoga. Shaner 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 Grihitvam Gatim Abhyaset. Child should hold this particular tripod and hold it, and slowly child has to try to move. Okay, practice the walking style or walking. This is the meaning. So this is a type of physiotherapy treatment, you can say, or you can say prosthetic treatment, you can say, or this is one of the type of practicing the walking milestones, okay, locomotive milestones in a child. So these are some of the main treatment principles which are mentioned. Now if you look at the shlokas, okay, for the study purpose, and these are some of the shlokas, all the things I have included under this only. Okay, so these are the treatment principle. Almost all what is mentioned has comes under this particular treatment principle. Now if you want the references, these are some of the references. See, Karayet Kriyam. This here the again shloka is missing. Okay, so Vyadhichvakam Karayet dash dash Riyam. It may be Vata Hari Kriyam. Okay, so this shloka may be Vata Hari Kriyam. So because Vata Hari Kriya is the first, therefore I mentioned in the treatment principle also Vata Hari Kriya. because this part is missing, so we are not able to make it. So maybe karayat vata hari kriyam, because vata itself is very dominant. Vata vruddhi condition or vata prakopa condition is there. So definitely we have to go for different types of vata hara kriya. It may be in the form of abhyanga, snehana, or rasayana treatment, etc. Then saditam pitam ghritam. Then Shuddha Koshta Tataha Phakkaha Pibet Brahmi Ghritam Kalyanakam Pibet Phakkam Patolam Va Tatamrutam Saptaratra Charjanam Trivikshirena Shodaya. This is explained how Shodhana has to be performed for this particular reference has been given. And here comes the controversial part of this. It's not controversial. We need to understand it very well. That's all. Nato Brahmi Ghritam Shudram Pibet Tadvasya Nashanam. Brahmi Ghrita should not be given for the Shudras. Prajakshayana yujjante shudra brahmi pibanti ye, and bhrita swargam na gacchanti hi garmastesham lupyate. So this is a warning given. So mrutaha swargam na gacchati. Okay. Now so these are some of the things which are explained. These are the contents of the Rajataila. Okay. Pancha Pache Chaturgune Kashahe Padasheshitam Tailaprastam Dadiprastam Kashayanchaha Punapachet Tasasiddham Gopaye Dadya Sarvataha Samprajuyet, then Rasna, Maduka, Punarnava, okay, then Prashniparni, then Eranda, Shatapushpa, Draksha, Pilu, Trivrt, Shrutam Ksharam Prayojeta, Kafadikam Chayantivim, Mutramishram Payam Pibet. So like this, for Kafadika Phakka Roga, Pittadika Phakka Roga, and Vatadika Phakka Roga, so they have mentioned different types of treatments. When the Kafadika is there, they says that more Mutra Mishra Payam Pibet. Okay, milk and as well as Mutra, so like Tishna Aushadhi should be given. Okay, for the Pitta, Draksha, Pilu, Trivrtadi, Shrutam, Ksharam Prayojeta. Kshiram Prayojeta. So for the Pitta dominant Kapha Roga, they have mentioned it. For the Vata dominant Kapha Roga, so they have mentioned this particular treatment. So what is this? Yes, for the Vata dominant, so they have mentioned this particular treatment where this is Bastayaha Snehapanani Svedasya Udvartanani Chaha. Okay, so this is for the Vata dominant Phakka Roga. For the Kapha dominant Phakka Roga, the same line of treatment, but it should be more containing more the Mutra and as well as other drugs. Whereas in case of Pittaja, we have to go for Draksha, Maduka, Pilu, and Kshirayutam Prayojayat. So this is what they have explained in the treatment. So this is actually all about the treatment of Phakka Roga. Okay, so this is nothing but the treatment of failure to thrive. In the failure to thrive also, we go for multidisciplinary treatment. We have to correct the nutritional problem, and we have to correct the immunological problems, and we have to correct the psychological problem, and we have to correct the social problems, and some of the complications, if it is there, we have to treat it. Okay, and the disease is chronic, then there is a growth fault, and we have to correct the growth chart. So by giving the treatment. And these are all basic things, and which is also mentioned in Ayurveda. Now, what cases should we consider as Phakka at the OPD level? Suppose a patient is coming to the OPD in the present scenario. Which patient you take as Phakka and follow the line of treatment of Phakka Roga? Abhyanga, Snehapana, Ashwasana Chikisa, Balya Chikisa, Rasayana Chikisa, and then Rajataila Prayoga. Then comes Basti, Snehapana, and wherever required there is Virechana. So these are all the different, and Tripada Chakrarata, these are all the line of treatment principle. So where we apply all these things, any patient who is coming to the child, coming to the OPD, for example, word meaning of Phakkatva is nothing but crippling of the child. So child will be physically and mentally and emotionally and nutritionally disabled. Any child who is coming to you with a physical, psychological, emotional and nutritionally disabled condition, so that has to be considered as Phakkatva or Phakka. Okay, so Phakka is nothing but a disabled child who is crippling. Okay, there is continuous deterioration of the health, just like failure to thrive. So all such condition has to be taken. That means when you look into the child, if there is a growth fault is there, growth flattering is there, growth fall is there, and that you consider as the beginning part of the Phakka only, and try to adopt your treatment principle and get the success. Now, what is the take-home message here? The take-home message is any condition in which the child shows reduced growth, velocity chart, and physical, mental problems are there, with the delayed developmental milestones, with the disability, different types of disabilities, okay, should be taken as a Phakka only. Suppose a patient of Duchenne's muscular dystrophy come to you in the ambulatory stage or in the later part, that is also Phakka for us, because it's a physical disability. Child is disabled. Child with cerebral palsy, that is also a disabled child. Okay, child with mental retardation, that is also psychologically disabled child. So all such conditions where growth fault is flattened, growth chart is flattened. So that has to be taken as a Phakka Roga. There may be many underlying disorders. Underlying disorders may be different, like because of chromosomal problems it may be there, metabolic problems, endocrine problems, congenital problems, neurological problems, whatever may be the underlying problems which enables the baby towards the failure to thrive should be called as Phakka. जो भी कंडीशन कुछ भी हो, अगर उस बच्चे में ग्रोथ चार्ट नीचे गिर रहा है, बच्चे का जो जनरल कंडीशन है डे बाय डे डिटोरिएट होता जा रहा है, दैट शुड बी टेकन एज कंडीशन ऑफ फक्का एंड सेम लाइन ऑफ ट्रीटमेंट शुड बी फॉलोड. सो फक्का मे बी ए सिम्टम or end stage presentation of many disorders and complications. So it should not be taken as a disease, one single disease. Okay, it's a wide, broad term, Phakka. May be seen in multiple disorders at the end stage of the disease. Of course, there are some other wrong correlations are there. For example, according to some people, so they claim that Phakka is nothing but cerebral palsy. Of course, Phakka is cerebral palsy is part of the Phakka. Cerebral palsy itself is not Phakka. That's the correction what we want to do is, okay, cerebral palsy is also comes under the heading of the Phakka, but it is not only cerebral palsy. There are so many other things also which are contributing to the Phakka Roga. Okay, as I told, DMD is also in the later stage Phakka only. In physical disability is Phakka only. Okay, micromineral deficiency leading to deficiency studies also come with the Phakka stage only. So sometime it is also compared with the PM. Of course, many symptoms looks like PM here, and we know that PM is also one of the main cause for the FTT is PM. Cerebral palsy is also one of the main cause for FTT. Similar, rickets is also one of the main cause for the rickets. This failure to thrive, FTT. Many times this rickets is compared with the Phakka. Of course, it's right. The nutritional rickets and its complications can be taken as part of the Phakka. And Phakka is not only rickets. This mistake we should avoid. And that's all about this Phakka Roga and its treatment. And with this we conclude. Thank you very much for being with me, for your patience listening. Don't forget to subscribe my channel, and also please give your valuable comments. So with this we have completed Phakka Roga. Almost all we have got 10 parts. The last part is a bigger one, and the other videos are of 10-15 minutes. Thank you very much. We'll meet again.